The Behind Ears podcast crew would like to thank the following sponsors for their generous support. Do you have a little one and need a stroller for your next Disney vacation? Then Kingdom Strollers has the stroller for you. They've got a great variety of well-maintained strollers that fit any need. Go to their website and check out the City Mini Double, the City Mini Single, or any one of their wide selection of great strollers. They also have crib and bedding rental as well. During every one of my Disney vacations, I can't go a couple of minutes without seeing a happy young guest in a Kingdom stroller that is followed by a parent that knows they made a great stroller rental decision. Want to see how Kingdom Strollers can help you? Go to their website at kingdomstrollers.com. That's kingdomstrollers.com. This is Mr. Chris, and I love a good cup of coffee anytime throughout the day. In fact, I like my coffee hot or cold, brewed in my single-serve pod coffee maker or in a French press. I even like my coffee both iced and even cold brewed. Regardless of how I decide to enjoy my Java, there is only one Java that I truly enjoy, and that is Expedition Roasters. Not only do I love their traditional brews such as Route 66 Tire Fix and Dark Side Roast, I love their flavors such as Bob Slitter's Brew, Charming Chocolate Cherry, and Happily Never After. To me, their coffees are never bitter, and I enjoyed every flavor I've ever tried. And did you know that Expedition Roasters also carries some of their flavors in decaf? They're perfect for that afternoon cup. You also have to check out their different teas as well, which are great hot or iced. Behind Ears podcast listeners have 2 different coupon codes that you can use as well for when you stock up. Use EARS20 for 20% off that first order. Returning customers can use EARS10 for 10% off subsequent orders as well. When you are ready to enjoy the best in pop culture inspired coffee and teas, check out expeditionroasters.com. Are you looking for a travel agent who has over 20 years of experience to take care of your Walt Disney World vacation, or your Disneyland vacation, or your Disney Cruise Line vacation, or even those non-Disney vacations? Contact Mickey Adventures by Brandy. Her services are fee-free, and she can take care of all the details for you. You know, things like ADRs and fast passes for you as well. Mention the show and get a Disney gift card if you book a 3-night or longer Disney vacation with park tickets with her. Contact Brandy at mickeyadventures.com. That's BRANDI at mickeyadventures.com, or give her a call at 774-400-3541. To you live from our studios on the East Coast and in the Midwest, it's the Behind Ears podcast, because everybody does Disney differently. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Behind Ears podcast. How is everybody doing on this fine Wednesday evening? I gotta tell you something, even though we've been doing this for about 3 weeks on these new time slots, I still think today is Thursday, or I think it's Tuesday. One of the two. When I think of show nights, I think of something other than Monday and Wednesday. But that's okay. You've been doing something for this long. You kind of get, stuck in a habit. You know how it goes. I'm really glad everybody's here tonight. Take a look at everybody over there at the sidebar. I'm so glad everybody is here. Hey, listen, we've got a really interesting show. We're going to start off with a mailbag. Got a really good question in regards to times of year to go, giving some alternatives, and as well as we're going to talk about money. And more specifically, we're going to talk a little bit about how do you save money? How do you plan your Disney vacations financially? Because let's face it, this is the time of year where a lot of people are starting to plan their summer vacation. And I realize that there's a lot more people that a lot more times to go, and people go different times of the year. I totally get it. But let's face it, for the traditionalist, you're going sometime in the summer. The kids are out. You get some time off. Summertime is how it goes. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to share with you some of the things that I do. And I also have a whole bunch of comments from over at the WDW community page that also kind of tells people what they do in order to try to save money. I know that we're not going to get every single idea out there. So if I take a look and I see that you're over there in the sidebar, and to me it's a sidebar, for you it's probably down there in the doobly-doo, but that's okay. you can go ahead and give me your ideas when we get to that point of the conversation. Alrighty, so let's get going, shall we? So this question comes from Deanna, and she says, hey, I had a few questions Disney related and thought this page would be a good place to start. I'd like to think you're right, Deanna. She says, how busy is the last week of May, comparing it to the second to third week of December, and how hot is it the last week of May, comparing it to July, August timeframe. Now, let's be realistic here for a second. Every time someone asks a question about relative crowds versus also relative like weather, I can go ahead and tell you something right now. Come that time of the year, next year, year after, it could be totally different. I have no idea. But here's the deal. I can go off of some assumptions. I can go off of some experiences. All I know is that this year seemed to be really crazy weather-wise. And I will also say it seemed like it was really crazy from a crowd perspective. So we have to keep these things in mind. So let's go ahead and touch base on busy times of the year. So she would like for me to compare the last week of May to the second, third week of December. Well, let me give you this little bit of, I'll say, insight. And this is, again, my personal experience. The closer you get, in my opinion, to Christmas in December, the busier it's going to be. And it really also varies on what day of the week Christmas falls on too. So, for example, Christmas this year is latter part of the week. And, the thing is that I think it's pretty decently equal between the end of May and the big, middle of December. The reason why I say that is because, generally speaking, if you're at Walt Disney World between, like, say, the 10th and the 20th of December, you're going to see the crowds pick up a little bit every single day. As you get closer to the holidays, the crowds are going to pick up. At the same time, right around that time of Memorial Day, that last week of May, more and more schools seem to be letting out earlier. Of course, more schools seem to be starting school a lot earlier as well. You're also going to have to deal with Memorial Day crowds. And so right around those times, you're going to see varying, if not increasing, crowd levels. Are there going to be really harsh crowds? Probably not. Probably not. It's one of those cases where it's going to be building, but not insane. I think both times are actually really, really pretty good to go. Now, when you're talking about weather, again, my opinion, my friends that are local will probably make some comments in the sidebar. And December, I think, is a great time to go weather-wise. It's cooler. Yes, it's going to go from, probably a little chilly for the need of layers to, you could probably get away with, a t-shirt and maybe some shorts. But that's if you appreciate cooler, warmer weather. Does that make sense? When I went, the last couple times I went in December, I would still wear shorts. But I wear shorts down in the 30s. That's just me. And I would wear, a t-shirt because I like to be on the cooler side. But I would always wear a hoodie, and I would carry the hoodie with me if I'm getting warm. So we'll just have to see how it goes. May is probably a little bit warmer. You probably don't have as wide of a temperature swing. So layers probably is still a good idea, but you probably don't have to be super prepared for layers in my opinion. So that's what I would probably say in the sense of weather and the sense of crowds. And Deanna, I hope that gave you a little bit of an idea of what to expect. Either way, personally, I think it's all going to depend on as for which one is better to go to. I don't know. It kind of depends on your schedule, I think. It certainly isn't like July or August, referring to the end of May, because let's face it, July and August is just downright stinking hot. My wife and I have been going down in July lately, and you really do need to, watch that heat, and it really does kind of get to you as well. I think May is a good time to go. Again, I think the weather is pretty well balanced. So we'll have to go with it. And kind of going along lines, I haven't been able to read the comments as I'm going here. Brian says, hey, yeah, it's about equal to mid-December, referring to May. And so let's see. Now, Brian says May is kill me now hot. No. I think August is kill me now hot. I mean, this past year was actually really hot in the beginning of the year for Florida. I think a lot of people, including Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, even stated that they thought that the hot weather came a lot earlier. Karen mentions May is good, not too hot. So, and I think that'll be go. Heather actually makes the comment September and May are her favorite times to go as well. So I think that's a good way to put it. And also Chris does make a kind of a comment here saying that in early January, not marathon week, he likes to emphasize, and early to mid February is the slowest time of the year from his perspective. Brian goes to say July is this was a mistake hot. How's that? So we'll have to see. Monica saying, hey, we're trying the end of January into February. I think that's a great time to go. The only thing I would say is in the cooler months, I've done a cruise beginning of February one time. That was a great time to go, except the water at Castaway Cay was actually a little chillier than I thought, but I really, really loved it. Mary says she loves January as well. Mary does also say that May was awful one year. She almost passed out. Again, as I said, it's going to vary. So I would probably say if you really want to do one of them, pick one. I think that both of them are probably better weather-wise than July, August timeframe. About equal in a sense of crowds. You just kind of have to plan accordingly. I would say check things like your weather channel or weather.com. Or even put Lake Buena Vista into the weather app of your phone, because I think that'll help give you a trending idea of what the weather is going to be like as you get closer to your specific dates. That's what I do. In fact, the other day, I didn't realize that for some reason I accidentally switched my phone over to Florida weather, and it said it was going to be like 68. I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, oh boy, what a bummer. So I'll have to give you on that. So tonight we're going to continue this a little bit by talking about money and savings and our Disney trips or anything for that matter. And I realize that lately this has kind of been, depending on who you talk to and what kind of context the conversation goes, money's kind of a touchy subject. And I totally get it. But let me tell you a little bit of a story. And it's very short, kind of boring even, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway. When I first started to plan for my first Disney vacation, I really should say my wife kind of planned it out. And it was just my wife, my daughter, myself. So there was only 3 of us. And it was our first Disney vacation. I was really concerned about costs because this was our first vacation as a family. And the fact of the matter is, I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't. And I told my wife, I said, listen, after the plane tickets, we have a budget of like this, because this is all the money that we kind of could spare at that time. And I'll admit, back 20 years ago, it was half of what we have to spend now. But I had to stop and say, what are my parameters for a Disney vacation? What can I afford? What did I have to include? Because I had to think about it. There was airlines, airfare, parking at the airport. At that time, we had to figure out how to get from the airport to our Disney Resort Hotel. This was prior to Disney's Magical Express. I had to figure out how much the room was going to be. I had to take a wild guess as to how much food was going to be. Park tickets. In that case, it was only 2 days that we were going to stay. And I really honestly had to stop and plan those things out. But there was also a lot of other things that I had to plan for. Um, the whole idea behind how to get to the park, or how to get to the resort, I should say. I knew I had to have a rental car because I think that first one I flew into like Tampa. And in fact, yes, I know I flew into Tampa now that I recall it. Because we were going to go to Walt Disney World for a couple days, then we were going to go up to Jacksonville, Florida for a few days to see family, and then work our way back. It was a whole spread of things that we had to take care of. I had to figure out what could I do discount wise to keep things in check. That was actually a real challenge because unlike today, there wasn't a lot of online resources that you can go to. In fact, probably the biggest thing that we had was like a Birnbaum book, an undercover, like an undercover tourist guide or something like that, and it was not a lot. We were at a big disadvantage compared to what we were doing now. When I got home, I counted up what I spent. I'm like, okay, I see that I spent this much. And if I want to do this again in a year, I'm going to have to save up at least that at a very, very minimum, and probably even more. I had to take into consideration different things such as, you know, other types of costs, longer stays at the hotel, more money for food, more money for tickets, that whole thing. And like anything else, I had to spread it out over a course of a year. I had to think, okay, if it's $2,400, that means I had to save at least $200 a month. Now, I don't know about you, but being that I was only married like for 5 or 6 years and this, that, and the other, and you know, I had a good job back then. Still have a good job, and I love. Um, but it was one of those cases where it's like I had to keep it real. I had to keep my spending real. So I think I had to put it in my budget. In Microsoft Money, I actually have a line item marked Disney Fund. Now it doesn't go anywhere, but it's a bill that's automatically paid, put into what I call a hiding account. And I hide it on paper. And it kind of, yes, every month it throws off my checking balance type of thing. But all I have to do is basically it's my checking balance minus my what's in my Disney fund equals what my checkbook should be. And believe it or not, 99 times out of 100, it equals. It's actually really pretty good. So that's kind of a rudimentary way that I had to start figuring out basic budgeting. And I will admit, first couple of years, I should say first couple returns after that first trip, I really screwed up my budget. I really made a mess out of it because I did more than I planned. I stayed at more expensive places than I expected. And I really just wanted more. I wanted more out of it. And I realized, oh, so I ended up spending more than I had. And that means I had to pay off that trip like in 2 months instead of just one after I came back. That doesn't sound bad, but here was the big thing. I didn't want to go into debt for a vacation. I was really trying to stay away from credit card debt. I don't mind using credit cards, but I treat them as cash. So that anything I spend on a credit card, boom, it goes right into, right in there, kind of as cash. So I had to be careful about that. And I basically just put it in as a 12-month budget. Every year I had to bump it up a little bit because I knew that my costs were going to go up. So I realized after a while, there are some things that I had to deal with. There were some things that I had to do in order to try to make a few extra bucks for my Disney budget. So let me share with you some of those things that I do now and I have done in the past. Some of these things I may not necessarily do actively right now, but they are things that I know I have done. So for starters, this is about as basic as you can get. I had to basically get rid of a lot of stuff. And I had a lot of really cool stuff. I had a lot of really cool, pieces of the computer equipment and stuff like that. And back in those days, 20 years ago, it was actually kind of hard to find some of those pieces of computer equipment. And, I had them from different projects that I worked on and so on and so forth. And, they're of decent value. And over time, one year I ended up basically selling like $500 worth of computer equipment. And that went right to my Disney fund. One year after another project, I ended up, I sold one of my computers because I just didn't need it anymore. It was a good computer that I built for myself, and I sold it for a couple $100. That's not too bad. I was also a really handy person. So there have been times where this is going to sound stupid. Okay, don't judge me on this. People would throw out perfectly good things. Some people would throw out perfectly good lawnmowers, for example. I'd bring them home. I'd see if they run, do a little bit of cleanup, little tune up, put maybe, $10, $20 into it, change the oil, change the blade out. My mother-in-law would sell it at her garage sale for $100. I mean, boom. I didn't really have to hardly do anything. It just kind of fell into my lap. And, I'm a really handy guy, so I would do those types of things. Other things that I would also do would be like, and I mentioned this over at the WDW community page. I would do scrapping, as they call it. Scrap metal, aluminum and copper, brass, stainless steel. I did steel for a long time, and it was just not worth it after a while. I was making more of a mess out of the side of my house than it was worth, because scrap basic steel is only like somewhere between $70 and $80 a ton. And I don't have a lot of room for a ton of steel. So I basically put that out for other scrappers to pick up. But between aluminum and stainless mainly, and even brake rotors and drums, those things I can get almost $1 a piece for because it's cast iron. And, I probably about 50 or $60 a year. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's 50 or $60 that I didn't have before. And it keeps those things out of the landfill. So I try to be environmentally conscious at the same time. How's that? Pretty good idea, huh? Some other things that we would do, again, garage sailing is a big thing. And there are times where basically we would like to just clean stuff out. I still have stuff in my basement that I really want to get rid of, but sometimes I can't. So it's over a period of time that I try to sell a few things. Make couple $100, depending on how much stuff you put out. I know there was a friend of mine that made like $800 or something one weekend for a garage sale. A pretty amazing amount, if you ask me. I don't know about you, but $800, that could be like 3 people's worth of airfare down to Disney if you think about it. And those are just some simple examples. And the great part about it is not only are you getting stuff out of your house, you're making money, you're cleaning your place up, you're uncluttering. There's just a good feeling to that. There really is. I really feel good about those types of things. So what are some other things that I do? I have a decent, I have a decent Disney reward card. I have a Disney Visa reward card. And I will admit that I also have the premier version. So yeah, I pay the $50 annual fee. But it's also like the card that I use day in and day out. 90% of what we spend in this house goes on that card and gets paid off at the end of the month. The other 10% belongs to another card that I get Hilton points on, because through just general spending, recurring things, cable bill, cell phone bills, things like that, I get at least one free room a night. And that actually pays for my room going down to Disney when I drive. It's quite epic. But the thing is that just through general spending, I earn probably somewhere between $400 and $600 a year of just Disney cash. And, that's quite a bit. I mean, we use that for everything while we're down there. We use that money first, spending other people's monies first. And that helps us out with things like food, especially. And we'll use it for the first couple of days of food. Or we'll have more than one rewards card, and we'll give it to one of the kids and say, here, you can go ahead and spend some money off of this. Because it acts just like a gift card. And it works out pretty well. Now, there are other people that do different versions of credit card reward hacking. And that's the ability to stack different types of bonus points and so on to get free hotels or free flights or bonus cash or things like that. A lot of people do that. I myself am not a person that likes to keep a lot of credit cards. I have the cards that I have, and that's pretty much it. But there are people that like to do the stacking of rewards cards as well. I do know of people that do that, and I may have some of them to give us some examples on future shows. But I do know that it's a nice little hack for a lot of people to do those types of things. And, outside of that, there's general spending cuts in my house. Now, let me rephrase that. I say spending cuts. It's not like, I'm cutting out things that I don't need. For example, 2 years ago, I cut the cord from satellite TV. I was spending $120 and change on satellite TV. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. And so I made a TV antenna. I got a couple TiVos that records over the air. I have Netflix, Prime, and Hulu. And I, in essence, spend about $40 a month now. That's, that's like, $80 right there. That goes right back into the Disney fund. $80 a month. I mean, roundabout figures over $800 a year. And I don't miss the stuff that I don't get anymore. That's the thing that kind of makes me laugh a little bit. We used to live in an era where we wanted more and more and more, and we thought we were getting some good deals until you figure out we weren't really using it. Which brings up another good point. What sort of subscriptions that you have that you're just not using anymore? Maybe it's time to cut some of your recurring expenses just because you're not using them. Do you really use Spotify Premium a lot? If not, maybe it's time to get rid of it. Same thing for some of these other streaming services like Netflix or Hulu. Maybe if you've subscribed to Disney Plus, maybe you don't feel like Hulu. I'm going to say like Netflix is something you're really going to use for a while. Cancel it for a little while. You can always go back. You can do the binge streaming. If you want to have it for another month or so, you can do that. But until then, save that money. Save $150 a year, or at least that's what you would if you kept it away for a whole year. These are some of those things where after a while you realize, I don't need all that. So I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to flip through some of the comments that were made. Here, some were made over at the WDW community page. And it's kind of interesting. Let's see. I made the comment about the scrap stuff. Joe made a comment. He uses the good old fashioned water jug and filled it with change. That's a great idea. And he goes, actually, this time it's not a water jug. It's a cheese ball jug, but he hardly uses cash anymore. Hey, I'd say, hey, you do that, you get cheese as well. Give me one second. I'm sorry. And let's see. Lizzie basically makes a comment. I buy a Disney gift card every paycheck. The value depends on the bills, but usually it's $25 or $50 out of every paycheck. That's a great way to save. And if you are able to buy those at a discounted rate, like over at Sam's or Costco or something like that, even better. I think that just really helps. And you can probably stack rewards on there as well, like using using a rewards card to buy those cards. You get a little bit extra out of that too. Angie says she picks up a few Instacart shifts as time allows. She also has a jar for $5 bills. And at the end of the year, 1 year, she saved $1,378. And for the 52-week challenge, where like the first week, you save $1. Next time you do $2, like every day, and that's actually really pretty cool. Dusty mentions, hey, I started taking my own lunch to work instead of eating at the hospital where he works. He also has a $25 paycheck direct deposit into a separate bank account. So he's taking what I do and change it on paper and just totally do it into a separate bank account. That's actually really cool. I actually wish I had the ability to split mine into different accounts like that. He says it's surprising how much it adds up over a year's time. Let's see. Cheryl's another person that puts aside every $5 bill, and it adds up. Last year she had $500 in fives to take as spending money. That's actually really cool. I think that's really really an interesting way of doing that sort of thing. Heather mentions every gift I get for every occasion from friends and family are Disney gift cards. She also does the change jar and sells vintage items online for extra money. Not bad. I mean, sometimes the whole eBay/Etsy thing could actually do a lot of good, along those lines of being able to save money. Chris mentions, and he's a local, mind you, he says it's very hard. We've learned to eat before going to the parks, except for special occasions. The arts festival is very dangerous for money. The best decision for a local is to buy a $100 gift card each month, and that's all you have to spend while at the parks. Not a bad idea, Chris. So it's not just about saving, it's about cost controlling. Good idea. Brian mentions, he keeps very good track of what money is spent on. It's very easy to figure out what's more expensive than you thought, or services you didn't realize you never canceled. Kind of like I was saying just a moment ago. And Ryan also mentions, we have a separate bank account we call our fun account. It automatically draws money once a week. Our next trip was paid for the day we booked it. Won't always be for Disney trips, maybe overseas trips in the future. How dare you say that, Ryan? Come on, we need to talk about that. No way. I just think those are great ideas. Let me go over to the sidebar over here and take a look. Let's see. Linda says, hey, don't laugh. Every year, garage sale makes her $800 to $1,200. That's Disney money. I think that's awesome. Mary says every single check, everyone in the house gets a set amount, goes into a Disney savings account. Very, very cool. Let's see. Chris says, I don't really save for Disney since I live here, but for my main vacation, cruises, he used the drive for Uber into Disney area to help pay the cruises off. That's nice. And yes, I thought it was you, Jessica, when I mentioned about a friend of mine making $800. She's correcting me. She said she made $900 one weekend selling her son's clothes and other things, which, hey, if you think about it, if you have a child or two that have grown out of their clothes, you can easily make a nice little chunk of change because everybody's looking for some good, clean clothes for their kids that they're just going to grow out anyway. I mean, it sounded a long time ago. I never thought I would even say that, but I'm like, hey, if they're going to grow out of it in 6 months, why pay full price? As long as it's clean, not stained, doesn't smell, doesn't have holes in it, that sort of thing. I think it's really, really cool. Mary also uses the premium Disney Visa rewards card, and she charges everything on it as well. And she even says that she has enough money to save for 2 annual passes right now. Jessica was mentioned about the whole cut into cable bit. She's like, I think the only thing I miss about cable is MTV. Really, Jess? MTV? Come on. I'm just kidding with you. Mary says she does $90 a check. And I think that's a good amount. I mean, it's depending on when you get paid. If you get paid weekly or every couple of weeks on the 15th and 30th, you kind of have to balance it to whatever you do. Jamie mentions bank has a program to move $1 each time you swipe debit to a savings account. Also, we have an other account and transfer money automatically into those accounts each payday. That's kind of cool. So every time you use your debit card, a buck goes into another account. It's almost like you're going to pay a fee to yourself for every purchase. That's kind of neat. And I think that would actually stack up over a period of time, especially if you are, not carrying, a lot of, loose cash. I'm a cashless person. It goes on a card. I just keep track very carefully of what I actually spend. Jamie also said we need to have a garage sale just for kids' clothes. Michelle says, while I'm here, I'm being mindful to not buy a lot of souvenirs. I'd rather enjoy Fort Wilderness and the rides and experiences than have a lot of stuff. Or if FW stands for fireworks, it would go either way. It's one of those cases where sometimes even cutting costs means you do Disney a little bit differently, and you don't necessarily, do those kinds of, all the different crazy things that you would normally do. Let's see. Brian also brings up a great idea. Again, cutting costs while at Disney, getting groceries delivered, especially items for some breakfast, lunches, and snacks. Exactly. We actually did this more, number of years ago. We still do it, but I think now we actually pack snacks, breakfast items, things like that. And we actually, the space that kind of comes to be after you use those particular foodstuffs, becomes souvenir space. So I totally agree with that. Let's see. Oh, Jessica also mentions another way to do it, referring to getting money for kids' clothes, is take it to a kids' store. We have Once Upon a Child here, and I take kids' clothes there and get cash on the spot. We actually had a consignment type of store around here as well. And there's also another one of those Once Upon a Childs as well. Hey, you know what? That could be a way to get some quick cash really easily, or dare I say, quick cleanup, get it all out of the house now. It really makes, a big difference. So let's see. Food and wine. The cocktails are excellent. Oh, and Jason mentioned, this is actually really cool. He's a pyrotechnician during the fireworks season, and all that money goes to the Disney fund. Yeah, have a side hustle. Chris mentioned Uber. Jason mentions, something that you're certified to do if you can. At other times, I would actually, I would do some computer work on the side, just helping people out. And they would always say, hey, what can we give you? I'm like, yeah, you don't have to give me anything, but I'd usually make, $25, $50 for a couple hours worth of work. And they would do it as a token of their appreciation, which I surely did appreciate. All that money goes into the Disney fund. And of course, one of the things that I do as well to help save, costs of just living. And a lot of you know this about me. I do my own auto maintenance. So I'm changing my own oil. I'm rotating my own tires. I'm checking things out. I'm buying the parts from good suppliers that do it at a discount. I mean, nowadays, an oil change is $65. I do it for half that. Now, I will admit, I still go to my local independent mechanic in order to get some things double checked on me, especially an annual inspection, just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. But at the same time, I'm not spending hundreds more than I need to every year. And keep in mind, I'm dealing with 5 cars in my fleet. Like I say, 6 vehicles in my fleet right now. So it's just one of those things to kind of take in consideration. If you can do it yourself, great. Instead of going and getting your car washed at a car wash place, do it yourself. Cost pennies on a dollar, get a little of exercise, get out in the sun, and you can, do a nice job for pennies on the dollar. These are just great things. Shopping sales for food, buying in bulk, freezing freezing big stuff. All these things do add up. And it's interesting. How many of you out there consider getting like a cup of coffee or a coffee drink at a major retail store somewhere out there, or even a mom and pop shop these days, and it costs you anywhere between $3 and $5 for a coffee-based beverage. Do you really need it? It's one of those cases where sometimes it's healthier for you to either not do it or, hey, buy a bag from Expedition Roasters, make your own, coffee drink at home for a third of the price and pocket the difference. Over time, it makes a big difference. When you're spending $2.50, $3 a cup at, yet I can make it for 75 cents and that includes all the creamer and stuff like that. Come on, that's money. Besides, tastes better. That's just me. So a couple other comments people were saying, Jason's like, oops, wrong one. I already said that. I'm flipping through. Sorry, I'm hitting comments that I didn't quite catch. Mary uses Dizzy Dolphin for delivery. Jessica packs snacks, especially when she's not on the dining plan. Jason does say, this is going back to what he said, his dream job would be a pyrotechnician at Disney World. That would be cool. It's one of those cases where, hey, if you can do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And let's see. I'm flipping through here. Oh, great example. Thank you, Jessica, for posting this. She says a venti peppermint mocha cost her $5.75, but was out a migraine. A migraine was coming, so she needed the caffeine. Okay, I can dig that. But peppermint mocha, buy a bag of the happiest brew that ever sailed, add a little bit of Hershey's chocolate or something like that to it, a little bit of whipped cream on top. Oh yeah, that's a good winter dessert type of coffee. What could I tell you? These are the kinds of things that you can do to help save. I understand that Disney is getting more and more expensive. I'm getting hit left and right. Every year my, different insurances go up and this and that and the other. Taxes go up. My mortgage goes up because the taxes go up type of thing. Someone told me that the best way to survive in life is to basically keep your debt low, keep your savings high. And I think in order for us to kind of enjoy Disney the way that we're used to, we may have to change a few things. And that's okay. A lot of the things that I mention actually help promote some real lighter lifestyles. The whole idea of, getting rid of stuff and possibly selling it to someone that would actually really appreciate it, I think is a whole lot better than just keeping stuff around. To basically do things yourself instead of hiring it out. If you have the talent, sometimes you might even have to buy some tools. But overall, over a course of time, it saves you time, saves you money. I realize that everybody can do some of these things. Pick some of the things you can do and see what you can implement. My wife is addicted to Diet Pepsi. We have a big garbage can with a big garbage can liner in it. All the cans that she uses in part of her consumption of Diet Pepsi and other diet soda products gets tossed into there. I've got one big bag sitting outside in another tub, and this bag is almost full. I know that when I take it to the recycling center, each one of those bags will be anywhere between $5 and $7. So it's one of those things. I'm also going to give you a tip. And this is going to probably be for those of us who live in the snow belt. Have you ever driven your car into a pothole so hard that it actually bends or cracks the wheel? If you've lived anywhere in the Midwest that has to deal with snow and potholes, chances are you probably did. Here's what I've done. If I'm told, hey, you got a crack or your wheel's bent or something like that, I'm like, great. I'd go find a replacement wheel. And a lot of times I'll find it at some of my favorite auto parts retailers online. Have it shipped out. I have them remounted on the new wheel. I keep the old wheel because it's aluminum. A lot of them are. Even if it's not aluminum, it's steel, but in most cases it's aluminum. Take that to the recycling center. One time I got $12 for one because I managed for some reason I managed to bend one wheel on my car twice. Let me rephrase that. Two different cars, two different wheels, but both of them were mine. One time I got $12 for one time I got $15 for another. And granted, the replacement wheel was already like $110. It was not cheap. But don't let someone else take that aluminum from you. It's yours. You're able to keep it. Go recycle it. And you'll get a few bucks out of it. Do it with your cans and you can have a good time with that. Mary mentions that she does less throughout the year so they can enjoy Disney. Jamie mentions, as a family of 5, we don't eat out but once a week. We cook at home on a strict budget by choice. That was a huge savings each month, and honestly, we are enjoying it much more. I have to agree. We're actually pulling back our dining out costs, which I also say includes getting pizza and bringing it home. Because while the pizza we love so much in the area, it's not cheap. So we kind of have to pull back a little bit on doing that sort of thing. You know, if I'm spending $30 on pizza and I cut back once, in a period of time, that's another $30 that goes into my Disney fund. So it's just one of those things. I have to laugh at this one, Jim. He goes, I didn't buy the VIP experience today with his KISS tickets because that $2,000 for a 10-second meet and greet and photo can go towards Walt Disney World. I did see that those tickets went on sale. That's actually pretty funny. Linda says, hey, I cook and eat at home. I don't like to cook, but sometimes saving that money is a whole lot better. Things like changing your cell phone carrier also can make a big difference. At the same time, sometimes you really need to keep your carrier. That's all up to you. You got to do some research on a lot of these things. You can't just always go on the bottom line. You have to make sure that if you make any changes in your life in order to put more towards your Disney trip, that it's going to be of good value. Because keep in mind something. I've said this before about choosing your options at a Walt Disney World vacation, and I think it's a good part of life as well. Cheapest does not always equal best value. I think at times you have to really take a look at that. I think you have to really look at what you're spending, and you kind of have to think about how it's going to work over a period of time. Because there are some times where you can get some quick wins, right? And you get some quick cash. But if you buy something that you're going to end up using for a long time, or you think you are, and you're buying something that's really super duper cheap, and I mean by cheaply made rather than just inexpensive, sometimes it doesn't save you money. Sometimes sometimes it actually costs you more money. A lot of different examples for that, but you have to do some experimentation, some research, and you have to see what fits you best. Everybody does Disney differently. Everybody's going to save money differently as well. Jessica mentions, we really try to eat at home, but when I work until 9, sometimes I just grab a bite to eat on the way home. And it's easy to do that. It really is. It's easy to stop at Culver's and get something that you can eat easily. Their chicken tenders are so good. Sometimes it's easy just to pick up, something off the dollar menu at a fast food place. Those are, first off, let's face it, we're not doing ourselves any good health choices by eating a lot of fast food, admittedly. And this is coming from a guy I'm a big guy, as you all know. So I'll just take it at that. But that couple dollars that you do that is just, you can save that and do something else. So those are some of my tips tonight on saving money for your Disney vacation. It's one of those cases where, let's face it, We all have to make some decisions. We're all starting to think about when our next vacation is. But how are we going to pay for it? Just please do me a favor. Think really honestly about something. I know that every last one of us really wants to go to Disney. We want our next trip to be planned. We would love to, have our next trip be planned for or paid for. Do yourself a favor though. Really seriously consider not going into debt for your Disney vacation. Because if you think about it, 1 month's worth of interest on a typical credit card that you carry over a month can literally wipe out any savings that you try to build up elsewhere. It can literally wipe out any rewards money that you earn from a rewards card like a Disney Visa or even something that gains points. You really have to be careful about some of those things. And sometimes we make some mistakes. Hey, you know what? That happens. But I'm really going to strongly encourage people not to go into debt for a Disney vacation. It is worth waiting for. That is something to seriously consider. And I really honestly hope that y'all understand where I'm coming from on that. It took me almost a year and a half working 3 jobs after I got married to pay off my credit card debt. I don't want to ever get back into that position. And I think out of the past 20 some years since I've done that, I may have had to carry a balance fewer than a handful of times. And that was in the very beginning after that. Don't do it. It's worth not going to Disney to stay out of debt. And I know a lot of people would go crazy me saying that and say, what? You're going to tell me not to go to Disney? How dare you? That's not what I mean, my friends. I'm mainly trying to explain that in order to help you paint a bigger picture. It just makes sense. I know we all want to go, but it would be a lot better to not have to worry about those bills afterwards. Mary mentions, and this is a great way of putting it, if you carry a balance, you're paying for that vacation so many times over. It's true. What you should be paying yourself back. You shouldn't necessarily be paying somebody else for the luxury of being able to go. There have been plenty of times where I've booked a trip and put the down payment down and stuff like that, and a couple of months later, some things would happen. I'm like, oh man, I have to do this, that, or the other, and this will cost me hundreds of dollars. And after that, I'm not going to be able to go to Disney. I've had to cancel trips, and it was sad. It was really sad to do so, but I did. I think not going to debt is probably one of the best things a person could do. It should really be at the top of the number one top item. Before you even save $1, make a commitment to not do that. And Michelle brings up a great point. There's a ton of stuff coming, especially in 2021 and later. So don't worry. There's always something new. Walt Disney World will be there, and it's going to be a great experience when you finally go. Well, my friends, I got to tell you something. I am going to press this button right here. You heard the show, and we hope you want more. Well, feel free to join us over at our social media platforms. Instagram and our Facebook page can be found at Behind the Ears Podcast. Our webpage is behindtheearspodcast.net, and our email is behindtheearspodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @BehindTheEarsPC. And come and join the conversation about all things Disney over at the WDW community page. Don't forget to rate and review the show over at iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as it really helps us get the word out about the show. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or the Podbean app. Also, you can listen to us on Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and via Alexa and Google Home. All right, everybody. Thank you once again for joining me on this journey of financial responsibility as it comes to a Disney trip. Really glad that you were able to join me. Thank you for being here. I'll tell you what, before you go, do me a favor. Share out the show, even after a replay. Let people know that you listen to us, even if you listen to other podcasts as well. Everybody does Disney podcasting differently, and we bring something different to the table. And really, I hope that you're able to share us and tell people about us. I would really appreciate it. It would be a great holiday present for us all. Well, I can't wait till we meet again next week. But until we do, I hope y'all have a magical day. Take care.